Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Charting Your Course, Transitioning to Retirement and Life Beyond. This webinar is being hosted by the University of Calgary Centre on Aging as part of UFlourish. UFlourish is the university's annual mental health and well-being series that features a range of seminars, workshops, and events for students, faculty, staff, and the wider community. My name is Dr. Jana Holroyd-Leduc, and I am an academic geriatrician and the academic lead for the Centre on Aging. I will be moderating today's webinar. I am joining this webinar from Calgary, Alberta. I would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge that the University of Calgary is located in the heart of Southern Alberta and pays tribute to the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chikini, Bearspaw, and the Goodstoney First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nations of Alberta, Districts 5 and 6. The Centre on Aging is thrilled to host this webinar that explores how to embrace retirement as a time for personal growth, new experiences, and meaningful connections. The Centre is a dynamic hub that brings together people from various fields and sectors to collaborate on innovative solutions for aging-related challenges. It leads and supports research and educational initiatives aimed at addressing health inequities, improving continuing care facilities, creating age-friendly environments, and influencing policies that benefit older adults. By facilitating connections across fields and sectors and encouraging new approaches, the Centre is committed to optimizing the health and well-being of older adults and shaping a brighter future for aging communities. The Centre is embedded within the O'Brien Institute for Public Health within the Cummings School of Medicine. Under the leadership of the Centre on Aging, the University of Calgary recently joined the Age-Friendly University Global Network. The network focuses on creating inclusive policies, programs, services, and environments in higher education for people of all ages. Age-friendly universities foster an environment where individuals of all ages, including retirees, are encouraged to engage in lifelong learning and intergenerational connections. This aligns well with today's theme of embracing retirement as a time for new discoveries. For example, institutions can offer programs and courses that can help retirees explore new interests, develop new skills, and pursue personal growth. Today's webinar will consist of 2 presentations, followed by a question and answer period from the audience. The presenters will answer your questions once both presentations are complete. As this is a Zoom webinar, all participant cameras and microphones are turned off. If you have any questions for the presenter or panelists, please send us your questions using the Q&A box. The Q&A icon can be found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties during the webinar, please message Aaron Davis using the chat. The chat icon can also be found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Today's webinar will be recorded for future viewing. The recording will be made available on the Centre of Aging's website. So today our presenters are Tiffany Moran and Dr. Jocelyn Lockyer. Tiffany has over 2 decades of experience in therapeutic recreation, currently instructing in the therapeutic recreation degree program at the University of Lethbridge. She brings a wealth of experience in adult neurological rehabilitation, geriatrics, dementia care, mental health, and adaptive sport. Following Tiffany's presentation, we will hear from Dr. Jocelyn Lockyer, a professor emeriti of the University of Calgary. Jocelyn is joining us today as a representative of the Retirees Association and will be sharing more about who they are and what they offer. Tiffany, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Just turn on my video so you can see my face. There we go. Hi, I'm really happy to be here. It's nice to see a couple familiar names on the attendee list, so that's lovely. Before I get too deep into the topic, I also just wanted to do a land acknowledgement and also say I am a proud Métis and Cree woman with some settler background. And I chose a photo for my land acknowledgement from Nose Hill Park. And this is a special place to me, and part of it is connected with University of Calgary in that when I was an undergraduate student, I was introduced to a sage harvesting site in Nose Hill Park by Elder Carrie Moore. And since then, I return every summer to the same spot to harvest. And even this last summer, I was able to take a group of friends and colleagues there and have a really special time together doing that. And that sage is enough to take me through the year for smudging and to gift people as well. So we have a pretty special space in our city, and just wanted to acknowledge that. Now a little bit about who I am. So I appreciate the introduction that we've had. I am a certified therapeutic recreation specialist. So in the recreation therapy world, that's a designation that requires a certain level of education and passing an exam, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm very proud to hold that designation. I'm also instructor in the Faculty of Health Sciences at the University of Lethbridge in the Recreation Therapy degree program, it's the only degree program in the province and one of only 2 accredited recreation therapy programs in the country. So again, pretty lucky to have that here in Alberta. And I am a UCalgary alumni, which also I'm very proud of. I completed my undergraduate in the Bachelor of Community Rehab and Disability Studies here, and then also did my Master's of Science in Community Health Sciences in the Faculty of Medicine. And so, yeah, big Dinos fan, supporter, and proud alumni of the University of Calgary. And then just with my experience in the field of rec therapy, I am, of course, passionate about health and wellness and the benefits of leisure and recreation and play on our lives. And we'll talk a bit about that today. But I know that, on this topic today, that planning for our future leisure is important and it's often overlooked. So this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and also just this opportunity to support the community in any way I can. I'm happy to take that chance here today. And so, yeah, why this topic? And, I think if you follow, there's been news articles and we'll talk about a couple of those, right? So I feel like sometimes when stuff hits sort of mainstream news about mental health and loneliness and those sorts of topics, my ears perk up. And especially when it comes to retirement, there's been a few more articles out there, and my rec therapy brain just sort of thinks, we can work on this and we can aim to prevent some of this that's happening with some folks with planning for retirement and looking at our leisure and our free time. So I'm briefly going to touch on a little bit of some of the current research that I've drawn from. I mean, we do know retirement's a major life-changing event, and it has been researched by many folks over the years. This is a very small sample here of just some links, and I'll have some more resources at the end. But and these were a couple of the articles I mentioned that I've seen lately, actually in the Globe and Mail at the bottom here. I did want to say that there's a couple of colleagues and friends that have been doing some work in this area that I want to recognize. And one of them, Susan Hutchinson, she's been a rec therapy and leisure researcher out of Dalhousie for years. And even with her own retirement, she's been still researching in this area, and actually particularly at folks in the university setting. And the article by Woodford, there is some reflections on a retirement kind of leisure education program that I think they ran it at Dalhousie for university faculty. And so, yeah, if you're looking something a bit closer to home, that might be something to explore. And, and they've really got a little bit deeper than I'll go today. Like in 20 minutes, I can't go that deep into some of the necessarily the theory and what's happening here, but there's some really good stuff going on. And I've also noted on here, I mean, I'm presenting to University of Calgary community that Dr. Stebbins is on the list here too. And he's been exploring this topic and the topic of serious leisure for many, many years. In fact, I have like one of his books right here next to me that I use for this topic as well. So just some notes if you're interested in that. I will put a link in the chat when I'm finished with the PDF slides that have links to these as well. Okay, so when we talk about a therapeutic recreation process and applying it to leisure planning in retirement, I'm going to follow the process of API. And this is something we teach our students from day one in rec therapy. And those of us practicing in the fields, this is the process that we follow. And that would be assess, plan, implement, and evaluate. So that's the format I'm going to go forward with today. And hopefully it gives a little bit of structure to what we're talking about. And then just before diving into that, we know retirement can be, it can be a threat to one's sense of self, as identity is often so closely related to what we do. And it can also cause quite a big upheaval in our social connections. However, when we look at leisure and recreation, which is our specialty as rec therapists, we can somewhat free people from that push for productivity, find new ways to explore that sense of self and identity. And I worked in neuro rehab for many years, and I actually ended up sort of doing retirement coaching in a unique way using this process, as I had many clients that I worked with who had, say, a stroke or a brain injury or diagnosed with Parkinson's, or any other neurological injury or illness that forced them to enter medical retirement quite abruptly. And then they had to navigate this whole change in their life, also with a change to their capabilities. And we would go through this process together to explore what that might look like and to have a healthy leisure lifestyle when it comes to retirement. So the assessment phase, I mean, as assessment means, we'll just explore finding out more. So who are you and what are your strengths? There's some lifestyle preparations to consider here, thinking about, what aspects of your work life do you want to bring into retirement? What do you want to leave behind? But this assessment step provides that opportunity for self-reflection on your own strengths, your values, your interests. I do want to point out a couple of tools here that I've used in practice. And one of my favorites is actually the VIA Character Strengths Assessment. And there are also some really great books to support this tool. And this is through the positive psychology movement, mostly out of Penn State, I think. And this is free. You just click on this link and answer the questions, and you actually get your strengths profile. And then using that to help guide the process can be really, really helpful. And, catering to the strengths that you identify. So for example, my top strength on the VIA Character Strengths Assessment is love of learning. So in my free time, I actually spend a lot of time either taking courses, going to classes, reading new books, those sort of things, because that really caters to a strength of mine. And so that's one thing I would recommend. The second one on here is the leisure motivation scale. This is something that's conducted by a recreation therapist, but I did want to share it today because I feel like those of you on the call can probably identify quite easily which category you would fall into. So if you were to complete the 40, I think it's 47 questions on the leisure motivation scale, it would then give you a score for 4 categories, which are intellectual, social, competence mastery, and stimulus avoidance. So I thought it might be interesting, just in the chat box today, once I describe each of those, you can probably tell me which one you are. So if we start with intellectual, if you scored highest in this section, that would mean that you are motivated to spend your free time in ways that, you're learning new things, you're challenging your brain, maybe, like I said, taking courses, learning a new language, reading books, like those sort of things like that. You're really motivated from that intellectual piece. If you scored high in social, you are motivated to spend time with other people in your free time, right? You want to be socializing. One of my best friends falls into this category. She doesn't care what we're doing. She goes, as long as there's people there, because that's what she's motivated by. Just doing things with others. And then there's the competence mastery category, which is if you're going to spend your time on something, you want to do it well, right? You want to learn everything there is to learn about that topic. You want to challenge yourself to be the best at that. Sometimes people who are like to spend their time on physical activities, like say they're a long distance runner, they will want to beat their time. They'll want to, improve their, their stride, their this, and really get into the nitty gritty about how they participate in that activity and master it, right? It might not be just taking a watercolor painting class just for fun. It would be, I'm going to learn this. I'm going to sell my art. I'm going to enter competitions. I'm going to really, really master that skill. And then the last category of stimulus avoidance is you don't want to do much at all in your free time, except for, maybe you go home and you watch TV. If you spend your time during the day doing things that are quite exhausting, either mentally or physically, when you have free time, you just want to chill out. You don't want anything else bothering you. And sometimes people do fall into that category, depending on their job. However, that probably changes when you've hit retirement, and that wouldn't be such a high motivator, maybe for the first couple of months when you retire, but after that, it probably gets old real fast. But just thinking of those categories, where do you think you fall? Do you think you're motivated in the intellectual category, social category, competence mastery, or stimulus avoidance? Anyway, if you have some thoughts or can identify where you might be, I'd encourage you to just pop that in the chat, just out of curiosity. The next assessment I wanted to point out on here is this one is not one that I use in practice, but I was trying to find something that linked online as a resource. And there's quite a few options out there from a leisure interest inventory. And sometimes we don't know what's all out there, or in the moment we can't think of, oh, I would like to try this, or this is available, or whatnot. So sometimes having a list of just tons of activities can help us think about what we're actually might have some interest in. So that's always a good thing to explore. And the other tool on here is a values worksheet. Again, this is just one available online. I would do something different in practice, but this one is easy to access, just a PDF, but helps you identify those values. So combining strengths, values, motivation, and then what activities are of interest can really help in this assessment step, right? So take that time to get to know yourself a little bit more, right? We change over the years, so it's good to touch base. So the next step is a planning step. So now that you know a little bit more about yourself and your strengths, motivation, interests, what would you like to try first? So there's lots of considerations at this step. How much time do you have to commit to something? How much money do you have to commit to this? Right? I'm not talking about any finances today when it comes to retirement. Everyone's so different with that. And so you have to also assess that piece of uh, what do you have to give to this, right? Not everybody is going to, be traveling every second month in retirement. So thinking about what do you have to give to this every month or every week as far as leisure, location, transportation, and then, I feel like the instructor side of me here is like, make a smart goal and set that for yourself. Just have an example here of I'm going to go to a yoga class at Unison Kirby by the end of the month. Or maybe you're interested in finding some volunteer work and you want to attend some volunteer info sessions over the next couple months that you're interested in. Or maybe you want to do a drop-in dance class at DJD by the end of the month. Um, uh, Maybe you're creative and want to buy a set of watercolor paints and try an online painting tutorial. Whatever it is, set some sort of goal and plan for something. Next step, this is the fun part, is to actually implement it. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. Just try it. Be in the moment, give it a fair shot, invite a friend to join you, right? This is the time, right? When you're getting either you're partly retired or you're in full retirement, just try some stuff. You don't know what you might like. For some reason, everybody loves pickleball right now. And I mean, I've played. I guess it's appealing, but like, oh my gosh, that's really picked up. And probably a lot of people never played it before. But yeah, you could try one thing at a time, a couple activities at a time, but be open to new possibilities, right? This is the fun piece, and give things a try. And this is the piece I think we sometimes can skip over, and I think it's very valuable, is that evaluation phase. And I'm a bit of a paper person, and I like to write things down. So I would actually like answer these questions just to do a little reflection and evaluation, right? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Did you meet interesting people? Do you actually see yourself continuing with this? What's your motivation to keep going with it? What was meaningful about it? But whatever you do, don't skip this step. Like, take some time to think about it or talk it out with a friend or a partner, what have you. But yeah, taking time to reflect and evaluate the activity. Yeah, you don't want to skip that step. And then repeat, right? You do not have to stick with your initial choice. You can change your mind. You can try something else. Um, and this may take time. There's no right way or wrong way necessarily to do this. I think as a rec therapist, I'm always just happy with, people are giving things a try, right? You don't know what you like, and sometimes until you give it a shot. And it's okay if you don't like it, right? I'm sure all of us have tried something and you're like, I could take it or leave it, right? And then you try something else. And that's okay, right? We're all different and we all have different needs, different motivators, all these things. So keep trying. And with this sort of, I titled this like sculpt with the sculpting sort of theme, right? If you think of a potter, sometimes I watch pottery videos on YouTube. I don't know. Anyway, I find them a bit relaxing or something, but they might create this beautiful pot and they use the wheel, and then they'll just squish it all together and they'll start over again, get a little bit more water on their hands, and try something else. And that's okay. You can absolutely change your mind and try new things. And enjoy the process, right? And the benefits. There are I mean, like I said, I'm not getting into nitty gritty about the rec therapy and benefits of rec and leisure, but I'm pretty sure you all understand that. And that there will be some things that you might get more benefits from others, or a certain type of benefit that you need at that time. But I just want you don't have to stick to the first thing you try, right? if you're, you know, retired, partly retired, you've got time. Give things a try, and you will find something. Now, I wanted to make sure I left you with a few resources today. And these are all active links. So when I put the PDF in the chat, you can go to them. This Booming Encore site, actually, you can go and download. There's this book. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. It's called Longevity Lifestyle by Design, Redefining What Retirement Can Be. And you can actually download this book as a PDF for free on their website. And they have worksheets, which I think is really cool. So there's that. There's actually a retirement coaches association. And if you go to the list, there's actually a few Alberta-based coaches, which is neat. So that might be worth exploring if you wanted a little bit more support for that. The Retirement Wisdom podcast is actually kept up to date. So there's some current episodes there. And then even from our own UCalgary researcher here, Dr. Stebbins. So that's Planning Your Time in Retirement is out there too. So there's a link for that. I mean, there's many more resources out there, but you know, if you feel like you need a little extra support to think about how you are going to spend your time in retirement, it's out there, right? And like I said, the evidence is pretty strong that having a healthy leisure lifestyle in retirement is, I mean, it's good for so many reasons. But ultimately, you know, be happy, enjoy life, and do the things that you want to do and that you get the benefits from and that you enjoy. And I'm going to leave it at that. I have my email there, and then we'll have some questions later on. So not now, but I appreciate you listening, and I'm excited to see if you have any questions. Thanks, everybody. Sorry, I forgot to pass it over to you, Jocelyn.
That's good. I just have to figure out how to get the screen, my screen showing. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, your screen is up, Jocelyn. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the University of Calgary Retirees Association and some of the retiree options that come about as part of being retired from the University of Calgary. As you can see, I'm a retired professor and a member of the executive of the Retiree Association. And, you know, Tiffany's quite right that the retirement can be a time of great upheaval and identity, family stuff that changes radically, and your own health may change. So I often tell people about going on a tour to Iceland designed by young men who were in their 30s designing, you know, a highly athletic program where we climbed 75 stories to the top of a waterfall. And the group was from 55 to 85. So you can't always anticipate your health, your family's health, and your other needs. And so you have to plan that, you know, as Tiffany says, so try something, evaluate, try something else, and keep going. I will say the University of Calgary is a great employer, and like many employers who take away your keys and your ID card, for longer term employees, you always have access to email. You can show up for events. And I really do think it's a good place. So the Retiree Association is designed for people who were granted retiree status, regardless of whether you were support staff, management, professional staff, or a faculty member, but anybody can apply to be a member. I'm not aware of anybody who's ever been turned down. And we have retirees who came here who previously worked at other universities or industry. We get great support from the alumni office in terms of our activities and some funding. So what do we do? And I'll go through these things in greater detail, but really we're trying to create an opportunity. Actually, what I'll do is we're trying to create an opportunity for people to continue their engagement with the university, help people who want to create some special interest groups like book groups or film studies, help people contribute to the libraries and cultural resources, and then make experiences and abilities available within the university more broadly. So what does that really mean? Well, I'd say it's part of it is social enterprise. I'm the program chair, so I line up educational programs on a monthly basis. And as you can see from the slide, we've done everything from wills and estates. We've brought in faculty members to talk about wearable technology, to talk about the books they've written, talk about politics, and we do a couple of lunches a year. And we're always open to topics that people might want to learn about. And we do try to go across faculties so that we're not always hearing from medicine or nursing or engineering, but we hear from all of them over time. We're trying to make experiences available to the university. I know the alumni office is always asking us to help with convocation, and many people get involved with that. Some of us are involved with teaching. We can't teach a course unless we're hired on as a sessional, but we can certainly participate in educational events. Some of us continue to do our own research after retirement, and we can serve on supervisory committees. I think the other thing that we are able to do is we can support people who want to start an activity, whether it's a hiking group. We also, through our e-letter and our Life After Retirement, are able to promote events that are happening on campus, and we try to. And then many of our faculty members or other folks contribute resources to the library and cultural resources. Now, they don't take everything. You can't just box up all the awards you've ever received, all your handwritten notes, and dump them at the library. There is a lot of cost associated with what they acquire. But for example, one of my friends has 1,200 fiction books of a specific genre, which he's discussing with the library to take. They could either add it into their general circulation or make them available as in their rare book collection. Others donate other materials. I know of people who've donated paintings of significance. But it requires a discussion with the library, but they are interested in things that might be of importance to other scholars or to general students. So when we communicate through monthly e-letters. Also, we have a little newsletter, and we have a website, which is there. And so you can see the kinds of things that we have and some of our history. So, and you can always reach me if you want for further information about the Retiree Association. I am on the executive, and we have a dozen people on the executive. We have one spot. We are looking for a webmaster. We have someone who's trying to retire from that. So a helping hand. You wouldn't have to take it on yourself, but you could be a helping hand. So happy to answer questions about the Retirees Association and in our Q&A period. And I'll stop sharing so that we can enter into a more general discussion.
Great, thank you to Tiffany and to Jocelyn. And so we have yeah, we can still see your slides, Jocelyn. I don't know if you're so we'll start with well, Jocelyn's working on getting her slides down. We'll just start with a question. There's a question for you, Tiffany. So first off, great presentation. And the question is, I've never thought that my activities that I do in my free time will become full-time when I get older. So I don't know if you want to comment about that.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Svetlana. Yeah, I agree. And this is part of the reality with retirement is we put a lot of emphasis on the finances for retirement. Can I afford to retire? How much money will I have? That we don't actually spend the time thinking about our time and what we're going to be doing when, 40, 50 hours of our week is not structured anymore. So yeah, I appreciate that comment.
And open to, got plenty of time for questions if others have. And while we're waiting for some questions, I wanted first, Tiffany, to wonder your thoughts around, retirement activities that where we can be intergenerational, recognize the importance of intergenerational activities, both for us as we retire and also, I think, from an addressing ageism perspective. And I just wanted your thoughts as an expert in the area about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's an important piece. It's funny you say that because I thought my mom was going to be on the call. I didn't see her name on the list today, but she just retired, and I guess she's not on the call, so I can say this, is that we're making a t-shirt or whatever for her about that she's under new management with her grandkids being in charge now of all her time. But yeah, I think, when we talk about like ageism in our society and that integrating of activities with people of different ages, that this is also a time that we can do that, right? I'll use this pickleball example again, because when it first came out, it was very much sort of geared towards older adults. And now people in their 20s and 30s, younger are playing too. And there's a lot of merging happening there and everyone playing together. Yeah, I think there's opportunity there to to have that integration happening in lots of different ways in our communities, for sure.
Another question, I think this may be, Jocelyn, you may be able to answer. The question's about just who to talk to about working part-time, but questions regarding pension, etc. I don't know.
Oh, yes. My go-to person at the University of Calgary was always Grace Lai, L-I, and she's still at the U of C in human resources. I think it's the total something unit. But I think if you talk to your HR people, in your faculty or on the main campus, they can guide you, and they can guide you to information about your pension and what may be possible. And I know faculty often pick up sessional work. Other folks, I certainly know friends of mine who have worked for years off and on a call basis doing administrative work. So it's worth having that discussion either with your immediate supervisor, but also with HR.
Thank you. You both might have something to say about the next question, but so I'll just read it out. Is what advice would you give those close to retirement to prepare for it in terms of, continuing to work part-time and starting to engage in other activities?
I think you have to start early to think about what you want to do and what your resources are. It's different for faculty members because faculty members often will go on till they're very old in many cases. I'm sure, Jane, you can talk about that. But because there's no mandatory retirement, and the university has some amazing programs where you can become a 0.6 and then a 0.4, then leave, but that's really restricted to full-time faculty members. But even beyond that, as a volunteer, I chair examinations for the Community Health Sciences Department. I could do some writing of proposals. So there's lots of things as a faculty member you can do. I'm not as familiar with what you can do if you come from from the management and professional staff or the support staff, although I do know certainly of support staff and others who have been able to work part-time or get part-time contracts.
And I'll add to that too, Jocelyn, with, working part-time is not uncommon, right? There's a lot of folks that work part-time in retirement, and that's great, right? Like you really want to make sure that you have that meaning and purpose in your life. And that's why, whether that is part-time work, it's volunteering, perhaps. I saw Ellen made a note there too. And thanks, Ellen, for joining, fellow rec therapist there. And talking about volunteerism, right? Can be really valuable, especially to know that, your skills that you've developed over all the, decades can be used in different ways and giving back to your community. But it's really, I think, that piece of meaning and purpose, right? You have a reason to get up in the morning. So you want to make sure that you've lined up activities, whether it's part-time work, volunteering, a recreation activity, that sort of thing to be motivating to keep going, right? Because I think that's the risk that is happening with people retiring is if they don't have something to get up for, that really can impact our health in a lot of bad ways. That makes sense.
The other thing I've noticed, because we're with the Alumni Association, I'm also a U of C alumni. The Alumni Association are often looking for volunteers for a variety of things, and they post opportunities on their website. And they also do some mentoring of students for employment and other opportunities. So it's worth checking to see what the Alumni Association is doing and can do. And then, thinking about where you want to be a volunteer, because it's not all about paid employment.
Absolutely not. And I've used those tools, like looking at strengths and values, to help people find the right volunteer role as well. And just anecdotally, like in my experience, there's a real challenge right now with getting volunteers for lots of organizations and people that can commit to a regular, say, day a week or whatever it is for a lot of these charity organizations, nonprofits out there. So if that's something that might be meaningful to you, like, oh my gosh, you're like gold. out there to keep our communities really going in the right direction.
So I just wanted to Ellen, well, not a question, but I thought one point she makes that I wanted to just highlight to everybody is that seeing retirement as an opportunity for an exciting opportunity to try things new, but being brave enough. So I thought that was a really good point. Now the next
kind of saying what you were saying before, Jane, about like trying something new. You're like, that's for young people, or that's for, no, get in there, like be brave, try these things, and meet new folks, and yeah, try to get some of the stereotypes or anything out of your mind that might be influencing that.
Well, and as a geriatrician, we can address ageism by exactly doing intergenerational activities and being role models as we get older. So yeah, definitely. The next question, I think probably maybe Tiffany, you might be able to answer, is just the person wants to know how they can access a list of recreational therapists in Calgary. So
I saw that, and it's a little of a challenging question because most recreation therapists they work in settings with folks that are dealing with injuries, illness, that sort of thing. So there's the list of rec therapists doesn't necessarily really exist. Because we're working with mental health teams, we're working in long-term care, seniors living facilities, we're working in rehabilitation teams, we're working on different hospital units, that sort of thing. You can go to the Alberta Therapeutic Recreation Association website. There's a few people that do private practice. Most of them, I feel like, are focused with dementia, the aging population, but you never know. I used to do private practice work and do that sort of thing, but had to take it off my plate. So I can put that website in the chat box.
Tiffany, have you had much experience or with things like, I don't know, life coaches or other coaches to help people as they transition to retirement? Is there much evidence around that, or?
I'm sure there is. I feel like some of the folks that I've looked up online that do some of that coaching have that life coach background, and then maybe have done some extra training with the retirement coaching. And you can find some of those folks on that, the link that's in my slides. And yeah, I feel like it can go hand in hand a little bit, but honestly, sometimes just having somebody to bounce the ideas off or check in with can be really helpful.
And then another question, I think sort of on that line is, do you have advice on how to motivate or inspire retired people in my community to get out and try something new? Most of them are isolated and can hardly connect with other people, at least the ones I know.
That is a great question. Sometimes it can take one person. Oh, sorry, Jocelyn, I think you were.
No, go ahead.
I really believe sometimes it can take one person to get the ball rolling, right? Someone to step out of their comfort zone and organize something to get started. Maybe that's you, that's Svetlana, to do that, right? Because I feel like a lot of folks are interested, but kind of like Ellen was saying before, there is an element of bravery that, stepping outside your comfort zone to try something new. And, I think of, I've worked with a lot of folks over the years in practice who, if they've gone through a significant health change, or say they had a stroke, and they're really nervous about going out and meeting new people and or even reconnecting with friends. But if I think if you ask, like, okay, if you reached out to someone, who's ever said no? Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's usually saying yes. Oh my gosh, I love to connect, let's go do this. So something's happening in our head that's preventing us from that. But again, if one person can get that ball rolling, others join on pretty quickly. that's my thought anyway. Maybe you have another idea, Jocelyn.
Well, I'm thinking we all have an individual responsibility to reach out to people who we haven't seen for a while or who we think might be isolated and see if we can connect with them. And you can do easy things, you know, suggest a movie, suggest a walk, stuff that doesn't necessarily take hours and hours. We did do a survey through the retirees to find out what people wanted to do and whether they were prepared to lead stuff. People wanted to do stuff, but they didn't want to take it on cold. So we're trying to figure out who's going to provide that, you know, connectedness so that people can join in without having to be the leader.
And I think Ellen, in follow-up to that, just said suggest having your group or living location ask speakers to come to talk, that you can do this with AHS recreation therapists. I know too, I've been invited to speak about aging and healthy aging to a number of community associations so
Yeah, great idea, Ellen.
And
Put your email in the list.
And get on e-lists, like WordFest in Calgary runs some amazing programs. And, you know, if you know about these things or you get on the Plaza Theater list, you can find out what movies are going on and go to those things. But you do have to be informed, and you can't expect those organizations to necessarily be sitting there on their website finding you. You have to find them too.
Okay, well, thanks for the questions. I'm just going to put up our last slide. Just give me a second here. So I just want to say thank you to both Tiffany and Jocelyn for sharing your knowledge with us today. And thank you to our audience too as well for the great questions you asked. I think it was a great Q&A. So we hope that everybody found the webinar to be valuable. A recording of the webinar will be added to the Centre on Aging's website if you'd like to review it again, or if you want to share it with others who you think might find it of value. In addition, a survey will be emailed to all of you who registered for the webinar within the next few days. And please consider providing us with feedback as it will help us with planning of future events. And I wish everyone a great afternoon and evening, and thanks again to our speakers. And we will be ending the webinar now. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.